Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you literally never have to work for money ever again. You might still choose to, right? Maybe you start a small business or teach or finally travel. But the key is your monthly expenses are already completely covered by the passive income rolling in from your investments. That's the ultimate dream. Well, today, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how this dream is actually becoming a reality for a lot of Indians out there through what's known as the FIRE movement.
Right off the bat, let's tackle the giant elephant in the room. Can you actually retire at 40 in India? Is hitting early retirement with a neat 1 crore rupee corpus just a myth, or is it reality? Look, it's a fantastic goal to aim for, absolutely. But as we'll unpack today, you need a seriously realistic plan to pull this off. We have to look closely at things that can completely derail a bad plan. We're talking decades of inflation, sudden medical bills, and those terrifying potential market crashes.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the core FIRE concept. Then we'll do the math and look at the multipliers. After that, we've got an essential Indian reality check, followed by the 5 different types of FIRE, and we'll wrap it all up with actionable steps and the major risks involved. Let's get into it. Part 1. The core FIRE concept. Let's really understand what financial independence means. Before we crunch any numbers, we've got to clarify what this actually is. FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And honestly, it's all about gaining control over your time and your future. It's definitely not some get-rich-quick scheme, and it's certainly not about quitting your job because you got lucky on a few stocks. Financial independence simply means your passive income covers your living expenses, period. So if your family needs 60,000 rupees a month to live, that's 7.2 lakhs a year. If your portfolio generates that 7.2 lakh consistently, boom, you are no longer chained to a salary. And the retire early part? That just means you've bought yourself the absolute freedom to choose exactly how you spend your Tuesday mornings. Moving on to Section 2, the math and the multipliers. Time to figure out how we calculate that magic corpus. So, how do we actually find that target number? Well, if you hang around FIRE communities, you're going to hear this number constantly, 25x. The standard starting point is basically multiplying your annual expenses by 25. This actually comes from a pretty famous US study called the 4% rule, which says you can safely withdraw 4% of your portfolio in year 1 of retirement and just adjust for inflation after that. So if you spend 8 lakh a year, you multiply it by 25 and your target corpus is 2 crore. Sounds super simple, right? But here comes the reality check. We have to remember the 4% rule was born in the US, and Indian financial realities are just fundamentally different. We're dealing with much higher historical inflation, rapidly spiking healthcare costs, and, let's be real, very unique family and social obligations. Because of all that, you really shouldn't treat 25x as a guaranteed, bulletproof formula in India. Instead, a lot of savvy Indian investors lean toward a much safer 30x or even a 35x multiplier just to make sure they don't outlive their money. Let's actually put some real numbers to this so you can see what I mean. Say your household spends 75,000 rupees a month, that's 9 lakhs a year. Look at how wildly your target changes based on the multiplier. At the standard 25x, you need 2.25 crore. But if you play it safer with 30x, that number jumps up to 2.7 crore. And at a conservative 35x, now you're looking at 3.15 crore. The multiplier you pick literally redefines where your finish line is, which brings us perfectly to Section 3, the Indian reality check. Let's look at the long-term challenges. Why is retiring early in India such a tough game to play? Think about it. If you punch out of the workforce at 40, your stash might need to keep you alive for 50 years, half a century. Over that time, you're facing massive hurdles. First up, decades of inflation. That 100 rupee coffee you bought today is going to cost a small fortune in 20 years. Then you've got healthcare costs, which honestly inflate way faster than regular expenses. Third, extended family responsibilities. Whether that's funding a kid's higher education or taking care of aging parents, which is super common for us. And finally, taxes. You absolutely have to calculate your plan using post-tax returns, because those flashy headline returns on paper aren't what actually hits your bank account. And this leads to a massive light bulb moment. Please, do not forget your standalone goals. People throw around 1 crore like it's this magical solve-everything number, but it's rarely enough. Your 30x multiplier, that only covers your basic day-to-day living expenses. What about the huge one-off events? You have to stack separate funds on top of your FIRE number. Like, you might need an extra 50 lakh purely for your kid's college, or an extra 20 lakh sitting there for a down payment or a medical emergency.
All right, Section 4, the 5 types of FIRE. Let's see which path fits your best.
Because financial independence is absolutely not a one-size-fits-all deal. There are actually 5 distinct flavors of FIRE. First up is lean FIRE, which is basically hitting your number by living on a super strict budget, maybe relocating to a smaller, cheaper city. On the total opposite end, we have fat FIRE. This is building a massive corpus so you can live a luxurious, travel-heavy lifestyle. Then there's barista FIRE, where your investments cover the boring essentials and you just work a fun, low-stress, part-time job for the extra cash. Coast FIRE is super interesting. It's when you invest so much early on that it'll naturally compound to hit your target by retirement age without adding another dime. So you just coast and cover your current bills. And lastly, semi-retirement, which is literally just stepping back, reducing your hours, and taking a breather.
And finally, Section 5, Actionable Steps and Risks. Let's open up the practical playbook.
So how do we actually pull this off safely? Here is the exact step-by-step chronological playbook. Step 1, track your actual expenses. Seriously, no guessing allowed. Step 2, increase that savings rate. Step 3, wipe out any high-interest debt like those killer personal loans or credit cards. Step 4, build a rock-solid emergency fund. Step 5, lock in adequate health and term insurance. And then, Step 6, invest aggressively for long-term growth. The sequence here is absolutely critical. Before you go chasing massive market growth, you have to build that defensive moat. Clear the bad debt, stock the emergency fund, get insured. Once that foundation is poured, then you can scale up your investments, maybe using step-up SIPs as your income grows.
Let's make this totally concrete by looking at a real-world example. Meet Rahul. He's 30 years old, pulling in a monthly income of 1.5 lakh rupees. His essential living expenses are about 70,000 a month, and is currently investing 60,000 every month. If we look at his yearly household burn rate, it's roughly 8.4 lakh rupees.
So if Rahul wants to FIRE, let's use that safer 30x multiplier we talked about. 8.4 lakh times 30 means his absolute baseline is 2.52 crore. But wait, remember those standalone goals? Rahul knows he'll need an extra 50 lakh for his kid's education down the line, and he wants a 25 lakh long-term contingency fund just to sleep well at night. When we add those back in, his real personalized FIRE target is a much more realistic 3.27 crore.
Now, we absolutely cannot talk about FIRE without staring down the major risks. Obviously, retiring too early with a tiny corpus is bad, but the really scary one is sequence of returns risk. This is the nightmare scenario where you retire right as a massive market crash happens. If your portfolio value tanks while you are actively pulling money out to survive, you can run out of cash terrifyingly fast. You've also got the dangers of underestimating inflation, overestimating your market returns, or just letting your lifestyle get more expensive as you age. Oh, and please don't ignore the psychological risk. A lot of people actually lose their sense of purpose when they don't have a job to wake up for anymore.
If there is one core takeaway from all this material, it's this: financial independence is not a fixed number. It's a living, breathing plan that shifts based entirely on your unique lifestyle. But here's the best part. Even if you never actually retire at 40, just adopting the FIRE principles, like spending intentionally, avoiding toxic debt, and investing relentlessly, that alone brings so much security and peace to your life. It's about giving yourself options, not just sprinting blindly toward an exit door.
So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on. What are you actually retiring toward, not just retiring from? Having the money is amazing, for sure, but having a purpose is what actually makes the whole journey worthwhile. Take a second and think about your own life. What is your personal target age, and what exactly does that life look like when you get there? Keep planning, keep learning, and I will see you in the next explainer.